Welcome back. Zoomed in. There we go. Better. Welcome back, YouTube. So today, actually tonight, I'm fishing at night right now, but I wanted to talk about two different companies that I've been using actually all summer. So the first one I want to talk about is this Slabsauce right here. Now, I've been using this probably like 7-8 months now. And when you're fishing plastics, and this is the other company I'm talking about, Pico, scent rigs, focus camera, good job. When you're fishing soft plastics, it's really good to have some sort of scent with it. This is one I mainly use, and I wanted to test it out under the ice. Unfortunately, my ice fishing season hasn't been going the greatest. The bite's been really hit and miss, but I do have a bunch of different clips from many different days across December and January here that I'm going to put together, and then hopefully I catch some crappie tonight. But first I wanted to talk about how I set this up for ice fishing. For crappie and bluegill, 2-inch, these are 2-inch tubes. Normally use the whole tube, 16th ounce jig, maybe a 32nd ounce jig. But right now these crappie are really finicky. They bump the jig and they need something really small. They're not biting huge lures. A lot of guys are using 1/100th ounce tungsten flies. I'm going to be using a 1/96th ounce, just a lead jig. And I'm cutting the body of these tubes in half and the tail in half. I'm going to show you that right here. There we go. So if you notice that the body is in half, but the scent rings within the tube that actually hold the scent are still there. And then I just cut half the tail off. And the reason for this, these crappie again are just nosing at it, so I need something small that if they do suck the bait in, I can hook them right away. Second company I'm talking about is this Pico scent rigs. So these are full-bodied tubes, and I liked using them because they have actual rings within the body, and these little cuts within this body actually hold scent a lot better than just a smooth-bodied tube. This allows that scent to hold in between those, kind of like a ringworm type grub. We're going to apply this Slabsauce. Where is my jig? That's the other thing about ice fishing, you lose your jig constantly. I'm going to spray a little bit of Slabsauce on this jig here. Doesn't take a whole lot, couple squirts. I usually rub it around the entire jig. A lot of questions about how often do you reapply this scent or any scent like it. I know the maker of this scent, the owner of Crappie.com, he did a video on how often he reapplies it when he's open water fishing. I think he said somewhere around a dozen casts. For me personally, every 10 minutes while I'm ice fishing, because obviously we're not casting when we're ice fishing here, but every 10 minutes, if you get on fish, every third or fourth fish, that's probably when I'd reapply this. Here is what we're going to be doing. We're going to drop this down the hole. I got a camera set up right down here. It's nighttime, so it's probably not going to show up very well, but I also have other footage from other days that I've filmed and caught crappie. I'll kind of just walk you through how I'm actually working this jig. So I'm going to show some clips here of actually using a larger plastic. This is a Charlie Brewer paddle tail. It's actually I believe it's a 1-inch grub paddle tail. And you'll notice that the crappie actually comes up to it. It takes in the paddle tail part, but not the entire jig, and it spits it out almost immediately. Now that was even with Slabsauce on it. So that's why I'm really having to downsize, and it's not just me, other anglers out there right now, we're really having to downsize. Normally a lot of guys throw bigger swivel spoons. A lot of guys will be throwing something like this. It's a buckshot spoon, shad colored, maybe a perch colored. But right now the bite is just really soft. They're not hammering it, at least the lakes I've been fishing. So some lakes I know they've been having great luck. The ones I've been fishing are very soft bite, so you work with what you have. No! Did that crappie miss it? Oh, come on. Yes, I got him. Got the crappie. Not a big crappie, but I got him. Not a big crappie at all. He's a baby crappie. But it is a crappie. Got the crappie. Alright. Well, forgot to turn the darn camera on. There we go. That's a nice crappie. It's probably a 10.5. I got 10.5 incher right there. Beautiful. Oh no, and I just dropped it on my phone. I'm going to talk about how to work these jigs, and I was just messing around. This guy was 4 feet in the water, 4 feet down. I'm fishing about 12 feet of water. This guy's way up in the water column. Those are those active fish, so that's what I'm trying to target. But I filmed a how to jig soft plastics earlier. That's going to be a different video. And I noticed a lot of times that these crappie weren't actually that aggressive. Now, like this guy, he wasn't that aggressive. He didn't race up the water column like a lot of times. I know if you've crappie fished at all, especially if you've ice fished and you have sonar and you're watching these purely vertical jigging, a really widely used tactic is let them chase it up the water column, make them go for that aggressive bite. But a lot of times these things, they're just bumping it and they're not chasing that much. So what I noticed was if I leave it still, they'll kind of slowly move up to the jig. And then once they're within 3 or 4 inches of the jig, either I can watch them on the camera or I can tell with the sonar, I just kind of barely bounce the jig up and down. And I got video showing this, kind of like a little bit of a rock back and forth. And a small oh, I got fish on the... Is that a crappie down? It is a crappie. It's a good crappie on camera. I don't have that camera turned on. I'm a mess right now. Just barely vibrating that jig. I'm not even moving it less than a 1/4 inch in the water. And all you want to do is let that tail just kick a little bit. And I noticed this because I tried to compare it to a live minnow when fish would approach a live minnow. And that minnow would play dead, fish would get closer, and all of a sudden it'd start doing a little shimmy, and that's when the fish would hit it. I'm going to put the camera on the sonar. Hopefully that'll help. And then I'm going to keep walking you through how I'm vertically jigging this Pico scent rig masked with some slab sauce. Oh, there we go. So that is the crappie we need. That is probably a 12-inch crappie right there. And I need him to bite. See, he's out over just basically open space. He's not close to the brush piles. But eventually, hopefully as the afternoon goes on here, this crappie will move tighter in to the brush pile closer at night. As they start to feed, because a lot of these smaller bait fish will be in there. But looks like crappie here. I'm gonna pan over. Crappie are moving out away from these brush piles now in large schools. Yeah, there they are. Just piles of fish. There's easily 500 plus fish down there. But the problem is they're not all big fish. So we got to separate these things out. There's crappie down there. They're not all big crappie. And there's one looking at the screen right now. So here's what I'm doing, and what I've noticed a lot is I start at the bottom of my camera screen here, and that's about 2 feet off the bottom. And then I'm slowly kind of just bouncing the jig head, just barely moving the rod tip, and then working it up the water column by about 1 foot. That usually brings these more aggressive fish in for a strike. Just that foot is where I've been catching the fish. I lower it by 1 foot, they won't hit. Alright, that's going to wrap it up for me tonight. Showed a bunch of different clips, obviously, from daytime, different lakes, rivers, using these Pico scent rigs, the slab sauce here, and I use this scent with pretty much any plastic. Sometimes I spray it on the spoons that I use for jigging. That's the guy that we came away with tonight, a little 10.5 incher there. He is going to add to the stockpile in the freezer. Appreciate you watching. As always, if you're not a subscriber, below the video There's a red subscribe button. At the end of the video, you'll see my face holding one of these things. Big old crappie. Actually, I don't think it was that big when I took a picture. Doesn't matter. You should be a subscriber, and be sure to like and share this video. See ya!